you wanted the best, you've got the best podcast. The hottest podcast in the world. The Chris Voss Show, the preeminent podcast with guests so smart you may experience serious brain bleed. The CEOs, authors, thought leaders, visionaries, and motivators. Get ready. Strap yourself in. Keep your hands, arms, and legs inside the vehicle at all times, because you're about to go on a monster education roller coaster with your brain. Now, here's your host, Chris Voss.
Hi, folks. Voss here from thechrisvossshow.com. Ladies and gentlemen, there are these things that makes it official. Welcome to the big show. As always, the Chris Voss Show is the oldest living podcast in existence that still publishes 1 to 2 new shows every single day. That's the sort of work we're doing for you folks. 12 new shows a week, and pretty much just wonderful stuff there. So support the show. Go to goodreads.com/Chris Voss, LinkedIn.com, YouTube.com, and Facebook.com/Chris Voss. One word. Today we have an amazing young man on the show. We're going to be talking about his books and insight and his experience. It is entitled The Greatest Love: Lessons for Living with Extraordinary Courage, Even After the Worst Day of Your Life. We are joined today by Tim Brown. We're going to get in with him and find out the details of this wonderful book he's published. And of course, you can find out where to pick it up, et cetera, et cetera. Tim Brown is a retired FDNY firefighter, responder to the 1995 Oklahoma City bombing and the 1993 and 2001 World Trade Center terrorist attacks, and a founding member of the U.S. Department of Homeland Security. For the past 2 decades, Brown has been one of the most trusted voices in the 9/11 community, speaking nationally to audiences, including the FBI, the U.S. military, and intelligence community, and first responders on grief, trauma, leadership, and resilience. His story has been featured in award-winning documentaries and covered across major media platforms. Welcome to the show, Tim. How are you, sir?
Hey, Chris. Thank you. I'm great. Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
I can't believe that's me when you say all those things.
So you lived an interesting life. We'll get into it. Yeah. Can you give us your .com so people can find you on the interwebs somewhere?
My personal is fftim.com. fftim.com. Of course, stands for firefightertim.com. And you can look at some of my podcasts and history, and you can look at the book a little bit, The Greatest Love, and find out where to buy it on all major platforms on the web.
So, boy, you lived an interesting life if you were at all 3 of these events, right? You were at all 3 of the call-ins for the Oklahoma City bombing, the first attack on the World Trade Center, and then the 2001.
Yeah, like I said, I can't believe that's my life. And what I will do is give the shout out to my friends who gave their lives on September 11th. They are why I do this. They are why I wrote the book. They are why I have never forgotten for the last 25 years.
Yeah. And what an extraordinary thing. What was the proponent that made you say, I'm going to finally sit down and write a book about my life?
You may have heard of a Navy SEAL named Jason Redman, who was an injured Navy SEAL and was shot in the face and made it through that. As he says, 40 surgeries later, wow, they were able to put Humpty Dumpty back together again. And what Jay has been through inspired me a lot. And he was able to make that transition to being an author. And he was after me. He has become one of my very best friends. And he was after me for a while to write a book, and I deferred a lot. And finally, when I found out I had cancer 2.5 years ago, was when I decided I needed to do legacy things. And I listened to my good friend Jason, and he, even though he's younger than me, he was my mentor.
Oh. This is the great thing about people sharing their stories and books and lessons of life and speaking and things like that, is they help inspire other people to share their journey. And there's always people out there that need to hear from these authors and need to learn stuff from them. So tell us about your life. Lead us off at the beginning. How'd you get into being in the situations you were, working the jobs you did? What was the enticement or initial drive that got you into some of these fields?
I grew up in Newington, Connecticut, a small bedroom community outside of the capital, Hartford. And I was, believe it or not, Chris, I was a bad kid. I was getting in trouble when I was 12, 13, 14 years old.
Yeah.
I was getting very bad grades in high school. I hated the world. I was angry. My parents were splitting up. And one day, a house fire across the street from where I lived occurred, and I wound up meeting there a classmate of mine named Jay Walsh. And Jay lived all the way on the other side of town. So I was like, what are you doing here in the middle of the night at this house fire? And he went like this, I'm a junior fireman. And when he said that, my eyes went like flying saucers. And what is a junior fireman? And he said, come down and went to the firehouse Wednesday night, the volunteer firehouse. And he said, come down and train with us and see if you like it. And that was it, bro. My life was completely changed. I had mission. I had purpose. I had something I really believed in. And from there, we pursued the New York City Fire Department. And eventually, I got on really quickly in 1984. And then Jay came on a couple years later. He winds up getting promoted to lieutenant and retires. And I always do. He gets embarrassed when I say his name because he wants no attention or credit, right? But he really did completely change my life.
Wow. Isn't that amazing how some people can have that sort of impact in our life?
Yeah. We can all be mentors, whether Jason Redman is younger than me, but he is a mentor of mine, right? Jay Walsh was a year older than me. He is a mentor of mine. And now as I take the mantra, never forget, very seriously and very personally, I am probably mentoring around a couple dozen kids who are not kids. They're young adults now. And I'm mentoring them because that's what helped me get where I got.
Yeah. Isn't that amazing? And now you're sharing your story in a book, which means you're probably going to inspire a lot of people. Some people you may meet, some people you may not meet. That's the beautiful of a book. But there's somebody out there who needs your message and is trying to, and they'll only really get it unless they hear it from you. That's what just told to me by other authors when I was writing my book. And yeah, it's really important. So you're in New York, and how do you end up being called up for the Oklahoma City bombing?
So first it was the 93 bombing of the World Trade Center, right? And then the 95 Oklahoma City bombing was the first deployment of the New York City Task Force 1 under the Urban Search and Rescue portion of FEMA. So it was the first time our team from New York was deployed. And it was all kind of a scramble, last minute thing. And I was chosen to go. I was not one of the leaders. I was one that was going to learn because I was still a young special operations firefighter at that time. But my best friend Terry Hatton was one of the team leaders, and he chose me to be on his part of the team. And so in 1995, we scrambled and got on military transports with all our gear and flew out there to Oklahoma City. And I will say those folks there were some of the kindest, friendliest, most grateful people that we came to help them in their time of need. And they treated us. That warmth it's not the same here in New York. People are much more direct, whether you like it or not. But out there in Oklahoma City, those folks were, from the governor on down, were really wonderful and grateful to us. And we had hoped that we would find people alive, but we never did. That door closed before we got there. And then I went out to, they pre-positioned us for the Olympics a few years later.
Oh, really?
Because they had some intelligence that a bomb was going to go off, and so we responded. We kind of went there and hid because we didn't want to upset everybody. And actually, the Centennial Park bombing did occur, but they didn't need our help, so we wound up not being at the scene. And then 2001 was, of course, the big attacks in New York, Shanksville, and the Pentagon.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, so I got my timeline wrong. I guess I was thinking that the Oklahoma was first. So you were there at the initial, the 1993 bombing of the World Trade Center, which should have really, I don't know, taught us something that
you think?
Yeah. No one had ever thought that planes could be used as weapons. The car bombs, people drive car in Iraq and stuff. But no one saw that one coming.
There were a couple of heroes who did see that coming.
Really?
Fire Marshal Ronnie Bucca, who was also military, he had his top secret clearance, so he had been reading intelligence that others weren't permitted to read, and he was banging the drum. And then FBI supervisor John O'Neill also was banging the same drum.
Wow.
And they just couldn't get anyone to listen. And in the end, they both give their lives at the World Trade Center.
Jesus.
After they were the ones screaming that this was coming.
Yeah.
And I found this out afterwards. I didn't know anything about either one of them before. But they went down with the ship.
Yeah.
They are American heroes.
Yeah. Yeah, and rightly so. But sadly, we seem to have forgotten a lot of these events and 9/11 and caring for these people, the poisoning that they received, the stuff that melted down on 9/11 and all that harmful dust and probably asbestos and God knows what else that gave these people cancer, and we can't support them or care for them. It's just extraordinary to see. And so what a life you lived. What was it like with the 1993 bombing? Remind people some of what that was about. What was it like when you had to deal with that?
Yeah, I was a newer special operations firefighter then. I went into special operations in 91. And so I only had 2 years in the job, in that job. And when I arrived at the scene, there was a firefighter down, and I quickly learned that it was firefighter Kevin Shea from Rescue 1, who was a very good friend of mine. And I went to what we call Proby School. So when we were both brand new firemen, we went to school together. And so I knew Kevin very well, and he had fallen into the crater and fallen 4 or 5 stories and was injured. Yeah, he was injured. And so they were mounting a rescue operation to get him out. And so when I arrived at the scene, the chief told me, go help those guys. You're a rescue fireman. You know what they're doing. And by the time I got there, they already had Kevin, and they were already removing him. So I turned my focus, and I climbed 110 stories of the South Tower in very heavy black smoke from all the vehicles that were on fire.
Oh, geez.
Yeah, and I was just climbing 110 stories, I was in very good shape. I played soccer and all that.
Yeah.
And so I was good on the stairs, and I could get up there pretty quickly. I went up and I searched the stairwells and the floors to make sure the civilians were out or moving to get out, and giving them confidence that they could make it down the stairwells and all that. So I probably touched several hundred people. I don't know. And after that, we had no more deaths on the upper floors or anything. So we successfully helped people out, and they lived. So from a rescue point of view, that was a success, just as it was in 2001. From a purely rescue perspective, we were very successful in saving hundreds or thousands of people.
Wow. Yeah. What an amazing thing. Yeah, they tried it that first time, and then I believe it was a van or something that was a bomb, right?
Yes, a rental.
Yeah. And thank God they failed. But sadly it went on. So this is pretty much a memoir of your career. Would you frame it as that?
Yeah, what we're speaking about is a memoir of my career. The book, The Greatest Love, is more than that, because most of the book is about the aftermath. And I wanted to write this book to give people hope, that no matter what they're going through, take a look at my life, losing 100 of my friends, my best friends, being under the 2001 collapse of the South Tower and surviving. I want to be an inspiration for people that are in hard times in their lives, because I look back 25 years later now, and I call it Tim 2.0, and I have a wonderful, beautiful life. I have wonderful new friends. I mentioned Jason Redman before. I lost so many of my quality male friends on 9/11.
Wow.
And I tell the story of how I prayed to God to find new quality men in my life. And he answered my prayer, just not in the way I expected. And read, pick up the book and read it, because it's one of those funny, not funny tales. But God knew, in the end, God answered my prayer. He knew what I needed. He just didn't give it to me in the form I was asking for. And these people got me through my very dark times when my family thought I might commit suicide, because the funerals and the wakes and the memorial services and taking care of the families and digging through the rubble and dealing with the anthrax attack, which came a month later on New York, and then the crash of Flight 587, which came a month after that. We were in a washing machine of terror and pain.
Yeah.
And every time you thought you couldn't take another blow, you'd get crushed. Right. Another one. And my point is that's what the book is about. The book is about how I got through it, the tools that one particular therapist gave me to help so that I could help myself. The fact that Andrea Bocelli's voice spoke to my heart and gave me peace in my heart and saved my life. There are so many people in the last 25 years who have combined to save my life over and over and over. And that's what God gives us, right? God gives us those, and it takes longer than we want to get those lifelines. That's why I call it patience in grief. And patience in grief doesn't mean 6 months. It means 5 or 10 years. But if you can hold on and just understand that the light is coming, and it's not all darkness. There are things coming in your life that you can't predict.
Yeah.
And those things do eventually come. So really, Chris, it's a book of love. It's a book of inspiration. It's a book about looking to the future and just enjoying this beautiful journey called life.
Yeah. What an inspiring, hopeful message. You talk in the book about what 9 therapists miss about managing grief and the process that finally worked for you. It's got to be a hard thing. You're losing people you love, you're close to, your friends, your buddies, people that you probably were part of the brotherhood where you fought different battles with different events and things that you build resilience with. A lot of people tell me when they come back from the military, they're kind of lost because they don't have the brotherhood. And what were the things that 9 therapists missed on managing grief? Oh, and you probably have survivor's guilt too as well. What was the process that finally worked for you?
I probably have all those things that they give names to, I would imagine. For the military folks, I would encourage all the military folks to join the fire department, join the volunteer fire department, get a job as a firefighter when you come back, because the brotherhood is there. It's the same brotherhood that you have in the military that's in the fire service. So even if you don't live in a town that has volunteer fire service, move to a town that has volunteer fire service and join, because you will find the same brotherhood. Yeah. With regard to the second part there, that I was in a washing machine of pain and grief.
Yeah.
In the funerals and the wakes and the memorial services just kept coming. The names of the fallen just kept coming at me. And I just don't know how I got through it without the help of my family and God. And I kept trying, bro. I kept trying to go to psychiatrists and therapists, and I was shocked at how it was not working. And I don't want to pick on anybody or any profession, but it just wasn't working for me. I was going through all the emotions. They have that whole list of emotions you go through after something like this. And it took a few years until one of the widows of 9/11, my friend Tanya, recommended that I go to her therapist, who was a Fire Department of New York new therapist named Ashley. I call her Dear Ashley. Yeah, and she gave me permission to look through the notes that she took when I was seeing her. Unfortunately, she has now passed on, but she did save my life by giving, not pretending to know or understand what I was going through, but she gave me tools from my toolbox that I could use to help myself. And one of those was called compartmentalization of grief. And I had seen 9 or something therapists or psychiatrists before her, and nobody ever told me that. I had never heard of that before. And so when I was working with the feds, I was flying back and forth to DC from New York, and it was about a 1-hour flight, and I would always get a passenger seat, a window seat, and I would put down the window shade, put on my Bose, because back then those were the new rage, the Bose noise canceling headphones.
Gotta have those on flight.
Exactly. And I would turn my face toward the shade, and I would put my forehead on the shade, and I would listen to Andrea Bocelli. And from the time the plane took off till the time the wheels touched the tarmac, I would just sob.
Wow.
And cry for the loss of my friends.
Wow. That's a heavy load to carry.
Yeah, and look, not just me. I don't mean to say I, because we all carry heavy loads, and especially in the New York City Fire Department, especially in our Special Operations Command, because we lost so much there. And when the wheels hit the tarmac, I would wipe my face, lift up the shade, take off the headphones, and I would try to have the best day I could have and tried to be productive. My good friend who wrote the foreword for my book, Admiral William McRaven, calls it "Make Your Bed," right? Wow. He has a New York Times #1 bestseller. He wrote my foreword for me. And he would want, his advocacy in the book is that you make your bed every morning. As soon as you get out of bed, you make your bed. Because already, by the time you stretch or by the time you even go to the bathroom, you've already had an accomplishment that morning. Yeah. And every time you walk by that bed, it makes you feel good. Yeah. And then the next time or the next step, you make your bed and you answer your emails. Every day you try and do one more thing. Yeah. And get back into life and compartmentalize that grief.
Yep. Put your foot forward one step at a time. The great thing is what you're doing is sharing that hope. You're paying it forward. All these people helped you through your life, and many of the people were sacrificed by circumstance and accidents and horror, and you're paying it forward. You're the messenger who carries the story and hope forward and lets people know that you can survive these things. If they're survivable, you can help people, you can share a message, you can spread the hope. And that means those lives aren't lost in vain. We still care about those people. We have to be reminded of those people, because nowadays the news cycle is so crazy. It's just whatever's blowing up from 1 minute to the next is going to replace with something, some other sort of crisis. And so it's easy to get lost in these things. It's sad that we've forgotten how to take care of folks and the 9/11 responders and some of the shenanigans and politics that went on with that. One of the things you talk about in your book is how to rediscover purpose by finding your sacrificial why. You may have been explaining some of that, but can you clarify for us that a little bit?
So one of the stories in the book is very powerful. When I went to work for the federal government, I started working with, I'll just call them the intelligence community, not to be specific, but I was going around to their facilities telling my story of 9/11 and the story of the heroes of 9/11. And they beamed, I didn't realize they were beaming it around the world on their closed circuit TV system, whatever. And I got summoned up to one of the leadership's offices, and I met a bunch of people and got invited into some office space that no one's ever allowed to go to. The offices of people who work in secret, people who do America's work, and nobody will ever know who they are or what they've done, right? And I met the woman who led this unit, and she had never met anyone because her whole career was serving justice for America, for New York, and for the New York City Fire Department, right? And she did that for 20 plus years, but had never met anybody who was a survivor or from the fire department. And one day she was introducing me to people in her office. She was the equivalent of a 4-star general. And she was helping me to meet some of her folks. And I was following her through the office, and she turned around. She stopped and turned around and looked at me. And when she did this, the tears were streaming down her face. And she choked out of her throat, "Timmy, you are my why." Because I was a physical manifestation of her whole career, why she was doing it.
Wow.
And so to this day now, I've been bringing these communities together because it's not just about me and her. It's about our communities need to know each other, and we need to know their sacrifice, and they need to know our sacrifice.
Yeah.
And in the name of my hero friends, I will continue to never forget. I will always say their names. I will always take care of their children. I will always mentor them. I will do my very best to try to be, I will never be their father, but I will try to be a mentor to them and their friend Tim, who helps them when they need help. Things their father would have done for them, but they don't have their fathers.
That's true.
So that is my sacrificial why. I'm helping survivors who can't come back to New York, and they're frozen in this place. James Hatch, Navy SEAL James Hatch, wrote an excellent book called Touching the Dragon. And basically the dragon is what you fear, whatever that may be. And everybody has a dragon in their life, right? And he says, touch the dragon, because then you have cast that heavy wool coat off, right? That thing that's weighing you down. What I teach is not just touching the dragon, but punching the dragon in the nose.
Little
and,
pop.
Yeah, just a pop to let the dragon know that the dragon's not going to control you. The monster's not going to control you. You will live a happy, meaningful, purposeful, mission-focused, sacrificial life. And the best thing you can do, Chris, when you are down and out and when you're in the dumps, is go help people who have it worse than you.
Yeah. I learned that a long time ago. That's really important to do. And it's part of it's a gratitude thing where you realize that, yeah, maybe you don't have everything going right, or maybe there's some sort of situation in your presence, but it won't last forever. And if you have hope and if you work to get out of it, like some things you've talked about, but also the spreading that message forward. You talk about the brotherhood in your book and how to connect with the brotherhood, how to leave a legacy. Talk to us about why brotherhood is important, especially for men. A lot of men really need that these days. They're really separated. They don't hang out together. It's kind of weird when you try and hang out with dudes now. If I see somebody at the gym and we work out a lot and talk together, I'll be like, hey, you want to start working out together and stuff? And they're like, it's kind of weird. No, it's not weird for two guys to just,
be friends,
be buds. It's really messed up right now. COVID kind of turned a lot of people into stranger danger people. They're like, ugh. And you're like, whatever, man. But why is that important, brotherhood?
So I will say the future generation of my family in the fire service is actually my niece Taylor, right? She's the one she's a firefighter in Providence, Rhode Island, and she's carrying that torch forward on behalf of our family. So when I say brotherhood, I include the women who are in our job in the fire service. I include them as part of our brotherhood. So one of my best friends, Captain Patrick Patty Brown, who was one of the heroes of 9/11, wrote on the chalkboard in his firehouse, when they need help, they call us. When we need help, all we have is each other. It's a brotherhood. And that is exactly what brotherhood is. When all chips are down, when everything else is exhausted, all we have is each other. And we know that. And that's why when Captain Terry Hatton, my best friend, was screaming for help on the radio on the morning of September 11th, he was screaming, "Mayday, Mayday, Mayday," because he was trapped.
Oh, God.
My other best friend, Captain Patty Brown, I believe, heard that and was running up the stairs because he would never, ever, ever leave Terry alone.
Yeah.
Either he would die next to him or he would get him out. He would never leave him alone. And that is brotherhood.
Yeah.
And we would never. Yeah. We would never leave each other. When my job, their job was to go up the stairs. I was working for the mayor. My office was to be at the command post, and my job was to be at the command post in the lobby. And so that's why I didn't go up the stairs. If I had gone up the stairs, I would not be talking with you now. But those guys that did go up, and this is the title of the book. This is why I named it The Greatest Love, because every one of them who I saw, Chris Blackwell, Terry Hatton, Mike Lynch, Patty Brown, and I could go on, every one of them who I saw in the lobby of the North Tower, South Tower, the lobby of the Marriott, because I was in all three places, every one of them knew that when they went in that stairwell, they were not coming back. And they actually said it to me.
Really?
But they still did it.
Wow.
And in my judgment, every one of those police officers and firefighters who went up chose at the end of their lives to perform acts of the greatest love. Yeah. And that's what every one of them did, because that's the oath they had taken when they became our protectors. And in that moment, they chose to fulfill that oath in deed and in action. Yeah. So I wear the bracelet that says the greatest love, and it has the quote from the Bible, because it describes what every one of them did that day. Yeah. They are American heroes. They are human heroes, and they were willing to give their lives for people they didn't know.
Yeah. It takes a special kind of person who runs into danger to save others when most run away. We get that fight or flight kick in that we're designed to have, and most people run away. But there's a special kind of person that runs into danger to save others, that makes a selfless sacrifice or puts themselves in the potential to be a sacrifice, and hopefully they survive that. But there are times when the ending is not that good, but the people that they save and the difference they make, and it's important that people like yourself help carry the torch, help pay it forward, help memorialize that. And that's so great what you're doing here. And Tim, what are some other ways that people can support you other than buying the book? Do you have anything on your website, or ways that people can stay in touch with you and follow your activities, speeches, things like that?
No, I do a lot of public speaking. I do most of it for our protector community. So I do it for the intelligence community, the military community, our tier 1 military teams, fire service, law enforcement. But I am also available to speak at other places. I have some insurance companies, some law firms that I'm speaking to over the next couple of months. And the story I tell is extremely powerful. We had the Navy SEAL swim here in the Hudson River in New York City on Saturday. So on Friday, I took those dudes through the museum and I spoke to them. I have some media and production companies coming up who are coming to the 9/11 Museum, which, by the way, we haven't talked about. The 9/11 Museum, where I volunteer an awful lot, is absolutely incredible. They have done an A+ job in telling hundreds and hundreds, maybe 1,000 or 2 stories that will leave you in awe and inspired by what they've done. I'm a huge supporter. So if you come to New York, please go to the 9/11 museum. Plan to spend at least 2, probably 4 or 5 hours there, especially if you're a reader. You want to take your time, you could easily spend 4 or 5 hours there. And then I'll give a plug to my friend Mike's Irish Pub, O'Hara's, which is one block south of the Memorial Plaza. And it is loaded with, he says, over 7,000 fire and police and military patches. But I would say more like 50,000 patches and stuff. And it is our home. It is the home of police officers, firefighters, military, intelligence community, not just from America, but from around the world. We had the Irish Gem, who's apparently a big splash on social media. She came from Ireland, and she went to O'Hara's on Friday, I think. And to her 1.1 million followers, she said she called it the world famous O'Hara's.
Wow.
So what I encourage people to do is go to the museum, pay your respects, read the stories of the heroes. They have a little store, and then afterwards go to O'Hara's and debrief there at O'Hara's.
Do a debrief with a beer, too.
Exactly.
I like that concept. I should have said that when I used to drink. I'm debriefing right now.
Yeah.
It's been wonderful and honor to have you, sir, Tim. You've lived an exemplary life, and thank you for sharing it. Admiral William McRaven, we tried to get him on the show several times. We have some wonderful military leaders that have been on the show. I haven't gotten lucky enough to get him, but I've read a bunch of his books, and what an inspiring gentleman and leader, et cetera, et cetera.
He heard me speak at a retirement ceremony for that woman, the 4-star woman, and we met there. He was very kind and complimentary to what I had to say in my speech at her retirement. She is truly an American hero and a national treasure, and no one will ever know who she really is. That will probably never, as long as she's alive, no one will know what she did, but he gave me his phone number, and he said, and anything I can do for you, and so I asked him, and he graciously accepted. And wrote me an absolutely beautiful foreword for my book. And then I was also able to get my good friend named Gary Sinise to write a blurb for me. So both of those are on the front. I can't really see it. I don't know. Yeah, I blurred it out. There it is a little bit. So both of those are on the front cover of the book, and I am humbled and grateful that they would help me out.
Yeah, that's wonderful. It's wonderful. It's these are the folks who stand in the brink, and just like the CIA's wall of unnamed CIA officers that passed, there's a lot of stuff that goes on. We've had FBI people on the show. We've had people from the Justice Department on the show. There's a lot of people that stand in the brink that we don't ever hear about because they don't become terrorist events because they've beaten them to the thing there. And they've stopped it, and a lot of stuff we just don't hear about. These are the folks that stand in the brink, and sometimes we take this world for granted, or take the folks that stand there for granted because we don't see or hear them. They don't make the news. But it's something that's really important for us to understand. That's why there's the wall of the unnamed soldier, or there's the wall. The unnamed
stars,
thing in CIA, and then there's the unnamed soldier monument that's there too, to let our people know that we remember them. So it's important, and I'm glad you're telling your story and bringing a call out to it, and also giving people hope that there is some of the things you're going to go in your worst day of your life, whatever that is for everybody, because we all have different ones for what challenges we have to overcome. But you give us hope that if someone can get through some of these darkest times, there's hope for the rest of us. So thank you very much, Tim, for bringing it to our attention and being on the show.
Thank you, Chris. Thanks for having me on. The Greatest Love, available on all platforms, Amazon, Barnes & Noble. It's available everywhere. Just look it up. And it is released August 25th. It comes out.
And give us your .com one last time, if you would, sir.
fftim.com.
Tim, thank you very much for being on the show. We really appreciate it.
All right, Chris. Thanks, brother.
Thank you. Folks, And God bless to you, too. Thanks, folks, for joining in. Order the book wherever fine books are sold. The Greatest Love, Lessons for Living with Extraordinary Courage, Even After the Worst Day of Your Life by Tim Brown. Thanks so much for tuning in. Go to goodreads.com/Chris Voss, LinkedIn.com, Facebook.com, YouTube.com /Chris Voss, one word as always. Be good to each other. Stay safe. We'll see you guys next time.
You've been listening to the most amazing, intelligent podcast ever made to improve your brain and your life. Warning, consuming too much of the Chris Voss Show podcast can lead to people thinking you're smarter, younger, and irresistible sexy. Consume in regularly moderated amounts. Consult a doctor for any resulting brain bleed.